Hare Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to all of you. Thank you so much for joining this morning for our morning Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita reading. Today we have His Grace Balbhadra Prabhu from ISKCON Atlanta. Welcome Prabhu. Thank you so much for your association and blessings this morning.
Please accept our
humble obeisances.
Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhu. And devotees, the topic for today is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi-Lila 3.11. So, Prabhu, whenever you are ready, we can start. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pacharine. Nirvishesha Shunyabari Pas Chatide Sitarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda. Om Agyanati Mirandasya Jananjanan Salakaya Chaksu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Maya Tadatte Swavedantikam. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So today we're reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi-Lila chapter 3, text number 11. And our general topic today is the exalted position of Dasya Prem, servitude. Dasya Sakya Vatsalya Sringar Chariras Chari Bhavir Bhakta Jata Krishna Tadavasa. Dasya Sakya Vatsalya Sringar Chariras Chari Bhavir Bhakta Jata Krishna Tadavasa. Dasya Sakya Vatsalya Sringar Chariras Chari Bhavir Bhakta Jata Krishna Tadavas. Vishnu Gudapu, you want to chant?
Dasya Sakya Vatsalya Shringar Chariras Chari Bhavera Bhakta Jata Krishna Tarvash.
Ibo.
दास्य सख्य वात्सल्य श्रृंगार चारी रस चारी भावेर भक्त यत कृष्ण तारवश.
दास्य साख्य वात्सल्य श्रृंगार चारी रस चारी भावेरा भक्त यत कृष्ण तारवश.
Anyone else? Okay, word for word. Dasya, servitude. Sakya, friendship. Vatsalya, parental affection. Shringar, conjugal love. Chari, 4. Rasa, mellows. Chari, 4. Bhavera, of the sentiments. Bhakta, devotees. Jata, as many as there are. Excuse me. Krishna, Lord Krishna. Tara, by them. Vasha, subdued. Translation. Servitude, dasya, friendship, sakya, parental affection, vatsalya, and conjugal love, shringar, are the 4 transcendental mellows, rasas. By the devotees who cherish these 4 mellows, Lord Krishna is subdued. Report, dasya, sakya, vatsalya, and shringar are the transcendental modes of loving service to the Lord. Shantarasa, or the neutral stage, is not mentioned in this verse because, although in Shantarasa one considers the absolute truth, the sublime great, one does not go beyond that conception. Shantarasa is a very grand idea for materialistic philosophers, but such idealistic appreciation is only the beginning. It is the lowest among the relationships in the spiritual world. Shantarasa is not given much importance because as soon as there is a slight understanding between the knower and the known, active, loving, transcendental reciprocations and exchanges begin. Dasya Rasa is the basic relationship between Krishna and his devotees. Therefore, this verse considers Dasya the first stage of transcendental devotion service. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So in another place, Srila Prabhupada mentions just one part of a sentence in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 9th chapter, text 21. Verse reads, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the son of Mother Yashoda, is accessible to devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service, but he is not as easily accessible to mental speculators, to those striving for self-realization by severe austerities and penances, or to those who consider the body the same as the self. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yashoda, is very easily available to devotees, but not to tapasvis, yogis, jnanis, and others who have a bodily concept of life. Although they may sometimes be called Shanta Bhaktas. And then Srila Prabhupada says, real bhakti begins with Dasya Ras. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 4:11, Ye yata mam prapajante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama vartman vartante manushya partha sarvasha. As living entities surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Everyone is seeking Krishna, for he is the super soul of all individual souls. Everyone loves his body and wants to protect it because he, meaning the soul, is within the body as a soul. And everyone loves the soul because the soul is part and parcel of the super soul. Therefore, everyone is actually seeking to achieve happiness by reviving his relationship with the super soul. So this idea that Dasya Rasa, as Srila Prabhupada says, is that real bhakti begins in that stage. So this stage of Santa Ras, he says in the purport for today, is a very grand idea for materialistic philosophers, but such idealistic appreciation is only the beginning. So this accepting God as the supreme, the all-pervasive, sometimes people say God is love, so many ideas in speaking about God. But there's no actual service. Now, people really don't understand the concept of how to serve God. They have some idea how to apply the principle of God consciousness in their lives, certain principles, practices, attitudes, but in terms of actual service, how do you serve God if you can't see him? How do you serve God if you can't be in his presence? So that limitation of understanding where God is, how God manifests, and even to the point of understanding God's name, as Srila Prabhupada so beautifully says, God's pastimes, God's address. Without those things, it's very difficult to come to the stage of real service. And then how do you serve? We're so fortunate that Srila Prabhupada elaborated on this in many ways, especially by his own life. You know, it's not enough to speak knowledge. It's more important that you can demonstrate it in your life. Jnana, Vijnana. We have knowledge, we accumulate knowledge, we study, we research, we take notes, we take tests, and so on and so on and so forth. But until we apply that knowledge through service, it almost like doesn't solidify in our heart. I heard once a gentleman said that whatever you learn, you should teach it within 24 to 48 hours or you will lose it, you will forget it. And I remember my temple president, Balavanta Prabhu, he always taught us that whatever you're studying, you should write it down because, you know, you may forget. And if you don't apply it, it just dissipates. So the idea of dasya, service, the mood of servitude, sometimes gets overlooked even in our own devotional lives. We know service is important, absolutely. But sometimes devotees are more attracted to the quote unquote higher realms of devotional service, the higher rasas, the deeper rasas. I hear that so many times. And it's a little disconcerting that if you're not fixed in service, how can you even think of the higher rasas? Or to think that dasya, service, is less than meditating on Radha and Krishna. I remember years ago in Atlanta, one devotee, wonderful Prabhupada disciple, very sweet, but he had this this thing where he would always say, remember the gopis, remember the gopis, remember the gopis. He always talked about that every day. Remember the gopis, remember the gopis. So he was absorbing himself in that mood. There was also some other devotees doing that in Los Angeles, maybe some other places. This idea of going to that level, not understanding the exalted position of service. If we examine the life of Srila Prabhupada, it's a life of active service, not retreating, retiring back, active service. So he would describe going to the market for Krishna, cooking for Krishna, cleaning for Krishna, so many things he would say. I remember once in Vrindavan, I was fortunate to be there for Srila Prabhupada's class, in Bhagavatam class, and he was describing how we, meaning devotees who practice Krishna consciousness, he said, we see the deity on the altar and we think, here is Krishna. And then he said, but you don't take care of the floor because you don't realize, here is Krishna. Everywhere is Krishna. And the way to come to Krishna is through service. Of course, the most important service for us is chanting the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So important service. But Srila Prabhupada did not instruct us to sit around all day and chant. I was just reading this morning, and Srila Prabhupada said, in my Bhagavatam reading this morning, he said that this one devotee, African devotee, he wanted to imitate Haridas Thakur and just chant all day. And then Prabhupada said, but he gradually went away. He could not maintain it. He gradually went away. And several times devotees have tried to do like that. Dasya, servitude, is an incredible, incredible blessing to us because it involves using our senses in the service of the Lord. How we can use our hands in the service of the Lord, our minds in the service of the Lord, our speaking in the service of the Lord, our moving in the service of the Lord, our preaching, trying to give Krishna consciousness to others, is all active program. So this dasya, before we come to the stage of the other stages in the rasas, and Srila Prabhupada so nicely describes these in several places. And yes, this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi-Lila 19, verses 183, 184. Bhakta Bede Rati Beda Pancha Parakar, Shantarati Dasharati Sakyarati Ar, Vatsalyarati Madhurati E Pancha Vibheda, Rati Beda Krishna Bhakti Rase Pancha Beda. According to the devotee, attachment falls within 5 categories of Shantarati, Dasharati, Sakyarati, Vatsalyarati, and Madhura. Here he says Madhura Rati. These 5 categories arise from devotees' different attachments to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The transcendental mellows derived from devotional service are also of 5 varieties. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada begins to explain each one of these relationships in some detail. Shantarati is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2, 5, 16, 18 as follows. Manase nirvikalpatvam shama it yabidiyate. When one is completely free from all doubts and material attachments, he attains the neutral position called Shanta. So that's the stage where one is free from all doubts and material attachments. That's the neutral stage. Vihai visha yomukyam nija nanda stitir yata atmana katyate sotra vabhava shama ityusao praya shama pradhananam mamata ganda varjita paramatmataya krishne jata shantir ratir mata. The Shantarati. So now Srila Prabhupada explains a little more detail. And it's good for us to hear this so we can have some platform for discussion here today. The Shantarati realization of Krishna is in the neutral stage between the conception of impersonalism and personalism. This means that one is not very strongly attached to the personal feature of the Lord. An appreciation of the greatness of the Lord is called Shantarati. So that's an interesting point. As I said earlier, people begin in religious life to appreciate the greatness of the Lord. But this is called Shantaras. This is attachment not to the personal feature, but to the impersonal feature. Generally, one in this stage is attached to the Paramatma feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ishwar Sarvabhutanam, Hrideshe Arjun Tistati, Brahmayan Sarvabhutani, Yantra Rudrani Mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Bhagavad Gita 1861. On the strength of this statement from the Bhagavad Gita, we can understand that in Shantarasa, a devotee sees the Lord's representation everywhere. So that's very interesting. So that stage of seeing the Lord everywhere is still within the realm of Shantaras. Now, as a side note, as I was trying to study for this discussion today, or just refreshing myself, I realized my own life personally, how we know these rasas. We've said these words over and over, Shanta, Dasha, like that. We say them over and over. But do we actually stop to take the time to see what the real meanings are? So when I looked in the Veda base, there's over 550 references to just that word Dasha. If I were to try to go through all of that to bring it to this class, we would not be able to do it. So many references to Dasya, the importance of servitude, And Lord Chaitanya, in his own life, demonstrated the importance of this service, because that servitude goes through all the rasas, the mood of service. Lord Balaram is serving, everyone is serving, because service is so important. So we should not misunderstand and place service in a relatively lower position than so-called pure love of God, going all the way to the higher platforms. We think the higher platforms. But we'll find out from what Srila Prabhupada describes, and also Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, that this Dasaras is very, very important. So when he explains Dasarati, he says, Dasarati is explained in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2.5.27 thus, Swasmad Bhavanti Ye Yunas Tenugraya Harermata Aradya Tvamika Tesham Rati Pritir Itirita Tatra Shakti Krid Anyatra Riti Samharini Yasau. When the Supreme Lord in his localized aspect is appreciated, now this is about Dasharas. When the Supreme Lord in his localized aspect is appreciated, and a great devotee understands his subordinate position, not only does he surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but due to his subordinate position, he wishes to render some service and thus become favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A devotee in Shantarati is not very much, now take note, he's saying a devotee, not a karmi, not a material, a devotee. A devotee in Shantarati is not very much willing to render service to the Lord. But a devotee in Dasharati voluntarily wants to render service. Due to this attitude, the devotee in Dasharati realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead more fully than a devotee in Shantarati. He considers the Lord to be a worshipable object, and this means that his attachment for the Lord increases. Thus, Dasharati is characterized as Bhakti Paresanu Bhavo Varaktir Anyatra. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam 11, Canto, text, chapter 2, text 42. In other words, on the Dasharati platform, a devotee is attached to rendering service to the Lord, and he is detached from material activities. Shantarati is neither material nor spiritual, but Dasharati is actually on the spiritual platform. There is no attachment for material things on the spiritual platform. Viraktir anyatra cha. A devotee in Dasharati has no attachment for anything but Krishna's service. So we have to let that sort of seep into our consciousness, that last statement. A devotee in Dasharati has no attachment for anything but Krishna's service. So we can gauge ourselves how we're advancing in Krishna consciousness by how much we are addicted to, attached to service. Again, sometimes we think the most important service is just sit down to read Prabhupada's books. Of course it's important, of course, to study Srila Prabhupada's books. But as we're studying and the realization starts to come, just like if we're reading Bhagavad Gita and we read Bhagavad Gita, I believe the verse is what, 10:10, Tesam satrayuktanam bhajitam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayantate. So we read that verse, but we should examine that verse very carefully, where it says bhajitam pritipurvakam. One who's engaged in the Lord's service with love and devotion. And then we have to begin to figure out, what does it mean, love? And we can just see in our own life what love does to a person. When someone loves a person, they want to please them, they want to do things for them, they want to bring them things, they want to celebrate their birthdays, whatever, keep their pictures where they can see them all the time. You know, people have, now they put tattoos of the person they love all over their body, which I find very strange, but hey, you know, it happens even in Krishna conscious devotees get tattoos. So they want to just remember, everything they can do to remember that person they love. And Srila Prabhupada also says that if you love someone, you want to speak about them constantly. If we love Now, not if we love Krishna, as we're developing love for Krishna, a symptom will be that we want to speak about him constantly. We want to tell people about him constantly. Also reading in Srila Prabhupada's books, I was just refreshing myself this morning on Chaitanya Charitamrita, Yade Deke Tadakaha Krishna Upadesh, that wonderful verse. And that Brahman Nakurma, how he wanted to leave his family and go with Lord Chaitanya. He received Lord Chaitanya so beautifully, and his family washed his feet. The family members drank the water, and he such a nice prasadam. And then he opened his heart to Lord Chaitanya. This family life is terrible. It's causing so much pain. I can't take it anymore. I just want to go with you. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, no, no. Don't ever speak that again. Don't ever say that again. Most important thing, you chant Hare Krishna and help everyone else chant Hare Krishna. Then he gave that verse, Yade Deke Tadi Krishna Upadesh, that in this way you become guru. Tell everyone about Krishna, as explained in Bhagavad Gita and, of course, Srimad Bhagavatam. And as you chant Hare Krishna sincerely with service, okay, you can say, well, I'm just going to, this is the most important service, chanting Hare Krishna, I'm just going to sit down all day and chant. We've seen devotees do that. Maybe you don't see that as much now, but I remember back in the day, as they say, in the 70s, there were several devotees who took that idea and tried to run with it, and it didn't work. They just didn't work because we're not on that level. Like Haridas Thakur, Prabhupada warned us, don't try to imitate Haridas Thakur. He was exalted soul. We start from service, and then as we serve, and as we learn how to serve with love. Don't think that initially you know how to do that. I know for myself, I didn't know how to do that because I was not brought up in that mood serving with love. Well, you serve to get paid. You serve to get recognized. You serve because you don't want to be, criticized or chastised. All kinds of reasons why you serve. Like Prabhupada says, you work for your boss, but you don't really love your boss. You don't really love your work. Some people say, yeah, I like my work. Then go do it and don't get paid. Let's see how much you love it. Most people won't do that. So in Krishna consciousness, we want to serve because we are beginning to love Krishna by service. So we want to increase that service because we want to love Krishna more. We want to get free from these attachments to this material life, which is weighing us down, which is causing us anxiety, pain, distress. It's all coming from attachment to material life. So we want freedom from that. But the process is increasing our attitude of service, dasya. We have to, like I said, there's over 500 references. Take some time and go look at it, how important it is in our development of Krishna consciousness to get an attitude of service. It's called servitude, dasya, prem, dasya, rati, attitude of service. If a devotee asks you, like a devotee asked me this morning, could I do a particular service? Texted me and said, can you do this? And I'm thinking, I'm so blessed you're asking me to do this. So I looked at my calendar and make sure the time is there. I am so blessed the devotee thought of me, asked me if I can come and do some service. What a blessing. What a blessing. So every time you get an opportunity, like I know, I don't want to embarrass Vishnu Gadapu, but I know he always goes to Puerto Rico for the Rath Yatra because devotees love for him to come. And he takes time out of his work and makes his schedule and takes a flight and goes there and cooks prasadam and kirtan and service and service. Why? Because it's been ingrained in us that it's by service you make advancement. Why are we in the Krishna consciousness movement if we don't want to make advancement? And advancement is not easy. It requires a lot of sacrifice, a lot of service. It's very simple. And we know what service means. As I said a few moments ago, we serve to make money, we serve to make friends, we serve in, so many ways. There's that famous song by the Bob Dylan, very famous person. He had a little connection with Krishna consciousness, but he has a song that's called, You Gotta Serve Somebody. And he describes, you have to serve somebody. So here's the point. Why not serve Krishna? You have to serve someone. And we know that all the service we've done in this life to others prior to Krishna consciousness, even now sometimes while in Krishna consciousness, all the service that we've done that's not focused on pleasing Krishna has really not satisfied us. That's why we're here. We're here because we want to get free from the onslaught of material energy, material nature, this attachment. But We have to learn to tolerate, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, matra sparshata kaunteya stitosna sukha dukkha agamapayano nityas tam tatikshasabhar, to learn to tolerate. But see, what makes toleration easier is realizing I'm tolerating for the pleasure of Krishna, so I can remember Krishna. That's why I'm tolerating material desires, which is like happiness and distress, winter, summer seasons. That's why. Because I'm trying to show Krishna by my toleration how much I love him, how much I'm willing to sacrifice for his service. And then Krishna, the Dhammi Buddhi Yogam, he gives us more understanding. He purifies our heart. As Lord Chaitanya is telling us, chanting the holy name, the Sankirtan Jagya, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Bhava Mahada Vaginavapanam. By doing that, all these nasty things in the heart become gradually removed by the grace of the Lord. But again, it all revolves around service. So here's another nice purport, a verse in purport from Adi-Lila 8:83. Kintu yarye rasa se sarvotam tatasta hana vicharile achetaratam. It is true that whatever relationship a particular devotee has with the Lord is the best for him. Still, when we study all the different methods from a neutral position, we can understand that there are higher and lower degrees of love. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada refers to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that this verse does not advocate the whimsical invention of some methods of love of Godhead. Such inventions cannot be accepted as topmost. Indeed, such concoctions are not recommended in these verses. Srila Rupa Goswami has said in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.101, Shruti Smriti Pranadi Pancharatra Vidim Vina I Kantiki Harer Bhaktir Upatayaiva Kalpate. He clearly mentions in this verse that one must refer to the Vedic literatures and other supplementary literatures and follow the conclusion of the Vedas. An invented devotional attitude simply creates disturbances in the transcendental realm. So let's take a second. What does that really mean? And that's a very powerful statement. An invented devotional attitude. Anyone have any idea what would be an example of an invented devotional attitude? Any devotee, please share. Please help on this discussion. What does it mean, an invented attitude? Anyone know?
Something we start doing which has no basis in the scriptures.
What's a practical example of that?
Fortunately, I have not seen any practical example yet, but I'm trying to think through. Anyone else on the call would like to share?
Let me give you a little bit of an example from my own life, because it's good to have practical examples in your own life where we may have made mistakes. So as a new bhakta, because you know how new bhaktas are, they hear something, they want to just run and do it without confirming. So as a new bhakta, I was meditating on this idea of tapasya, austerity, combined with chanting Hare Krishna. So what I would do in Atlanta, in our old temple, we had a wooden front porch. I'd go out in the freezing cold, barefoot, no socks, and chant my japa, because I wanted to show devotees how austere I was. And the temple president, Krishna, so merciful to give me such a wonderful devotee, he said, Bhakta Ben, in those days we would say things like, you idiot, people don't say that much now. He said, Bhakta Ben, you idiot, why do you think we have a temple room for you to chant? Why are you doing this? What are you doing? I was just speculating. And he lovingly, by Krishna's grace, because I was sincerely trying to be Krishna conscious, so Krishna was reciprocating through a devotee to guide me. That's so important to have devotees who are willing to guide you. You have to put down your guard so devotees feel like they can come and help you, correct you when it's necessary. You have to let down your guards. You have to build these relationships. You need for devotees to say, Prabhu, that's not exactly right. So to your point, Prabhu, it's like there's so many practical examples in our lives if we look at them. So does anyone else have a practical example that can help us solidify this understanding of not having this attitude of speculating
Yeah, I
Anyone?
think His Grace
Vishnu
Vishnupada
Gada,
Prabhu
yes.
has something
Yes,
there.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
It was interesting because when it's a very little thing, but when I was in Puerto Rico, there were some devotees there from South America.
Hmm.
So I was kind of surprised when they, when one of them, after during the archie, there's the lamp,
Hmm.
and so when they're taking the lamp around to different devotees, they were first touching it, trying to touch it near their forehead, and then give it to them for their hand, their hand. And so I asked why they do that, and so well, everybody does it in South America. Because they're, by touching it to the forehead or close to the forehead, then that they're giving some kind of respect, right?
Hmm.
You might touch the flower to your forehead, so they touch the. So I was just surprised about that. That does anybody's hair catch on fire when they do that? So that's a very interesting thing. And we make if you listen carefully, sometimes you'll find people say Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaur Bhaktivinoda.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, they add the Shri, right?
Yeah. Why do they add the Shri? Well, Shri is nice. It's respectful. So let's add a few extra Shris, and we can make it really really nice. It'll improve on it. Improve on this. So anyway,
No, that's very helpful because little things like, okay, let's anchor that in something from Shastra, Krishna book, lifting the Govardhan hill, when Nanda Maharaj is preparing for the Indra Jagya. And Krishna asked him, what are you doing? What is this you're doing? And then he tried to explain that it's a traditional thing. And Krishna wanted to know, okay, is it cultural? Is it what is this you're doing? And then, you don't need to do that. Just worship Govardhan Hill, because Govardhan Hill is giving us everything we need. We don't need to worship Indra. So like all these ideas of how to do, and as you said, Vishnu Gada, to make it more, how in the world can we decide how to make devotional service better? We can do our devotional service better. Like Srila Bhaktista, like Prabhupada mentioned this one place in Chaitanya Charitamrita where, he talks about selling jewelry. Like devotees back in the, 70s, 80s, we had this thing of selling jewelry and candles and all that. And Prabhupada said, you think by selling jewelry, you can improve devotional life or devotional service, something like that. You can't. You improve devotional service, bhajitam pritipurvakam. And I mentioned this many times in the business world. They say one thing which I really apply to Krishna consciousness. They say there's only one question you should ask in the business world. How can I improve upon that which I'm already doing? If you're making a widget, if you're making a car, how can you improve it? How can you? Because they have to think that way in order to attract customers. So in order to attract Krishna, they have to think, how can I improve that which I'm authorized to do? Not concoct something new and think that it's going to accelerate my devotional service. No. It's like, what did Prabhupada give us? I'm looking at the 7 purposes of ISKCON to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all peoples in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. Wow. Systematically propagate spiritual knowledge. Don't speculate in your own life. And then, like Vishnu Gada just pointed out, you're doing something which is not really authorized. You can't say where it came from. Another person respects and sees you and says, oh, Balabhadra does like that, let me do it. So just like here, that verse, Shruti Smriti Paranadi Pancharatra Vidim Vina Ahaikantiki Harer Bhaktir Upatyayava Kalpate. And then Prabhupada says, an invented devotional attitude simply creates disturbances in the transcendental realm. So our Krishna consciousness movement is the transcendental realm. Everything you do, somebody's watching. Of course, the super souls are watching, but other devotees are watching, especially if you have any kind of position within the society of devotees. If you're a little bit senior, Haribo, Anasuya. Happy to see you.
I had to jump from one off to the other, Prabhu. I'm
Don't
so
worry,
sorry.
we're just happy to see you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Love
Thank
you
you.
all. So everything we do, therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 21, yat yat acharati shrestha tatta evaitaroduna. That verse is explaining that whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. None of us consider ourselves to be great. I hope not. We're sitting here thinking, I'm so great. I'm the best devotee in the world. That's a neophyte attitude. I'm the best devotee. Everyone else is below me. That's neophyte, not good. So, but we have to set the example. How do you set the example? Learn the standards. You read Prabhupada's books. If you're not sure, you inquire from other devotees, respected devotees that you trust, and you get clarification. And I mention all the time, like Vishnu Gadad Prabhu and myself, we talk a lot back and forth on very sensitive issues in Prabhupada's books, trying to understand, trying to go a little bit deeper. That's what we should be doing with each other. At least have a few devotees that you can inquire from. I mean, in the last week, I've reached out to 1, 2, maybe 3 senior Prabhupada disciples asking for clarification on something. Hey, I've been around almost 50 years. I'm still trying to get clarification on some basic issues. Why? Because they're going to govern what I do with the rest of my life. You can't play with this. This is for real. Krishna consciousness is for real. And if you've dedicated any time, months, years in this movement, that's an investment. It's like with money, you you watch your investments to see how they're growing. So this time you're investing in Krishna consciousness is not a joke. It's for real. So you want to make sure you're doing it correctly, right? Doesn't that make sense? I want to make sure I'm doing it correctly. So let me ask Anasuya Mataji, what about this? Or Vishnu Gadad Prabhu, what about that? Or Parikshit Prabhu, what about this? Am I thinking the right? I mean, I ask devotees, am I thinking the right thing? What do you think about what I just said? Does it make sense? And if we have a deep enough relationship, that person will say, yes, Prabhu, but let's look at it from this angle. I was so happy my godbrother, when I asked him something recently, he said, Prabhu, I like that, but I'm not sure about this. I don't want to answer your philosophical question until I've done some more research. I was so happy. He didn't just say, yes, boom, 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 yeah, blah, 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 blah. He said, I'm not sure. Let me look a little deeper. And it's been over 2 weeks. He's still trying to understand this point. Senior Prabhupada disciple. I was so inspired by his humility. It encouraged me to be the same way. Take time. Sometimes you just have to stop and just go back and look. Like the whole point about dasya. I know the word. I know what it means, servitude. But do I know what it means? 550 references. I haven't looked at all those references over the last couple of years. 550 on that one word. And I think I know what it means. No. So anyway, just a little bit more of this purport, which this point again about an invented devotional attitude simply creates disturbances in the transcendental realm. If a person overly addicted to family life takes to Srimad Bhagavatam or Krishna consciousness to earn a livelihood, his activity is certainly offensive. One should not become a caste guru and sell mantras for the benefit of mundane customers, nor should one make disciples for a livelihood. I had a devotee tell me once, and it was so upsetting. He said, Prabhu, Balabhaja, you should become a guru. That way you won't have any more financial problems. And I was like, is that what you think of me? I mean, really? And after all I've tried to show you in terms of a little bit of surrender, you think that of me? That I would do that for that purpose? It was just painful. And it still causes me pain when I think about it. One should not make a livelihood by forming, and this is one that's real practical. And Parikshit, you might resonate with this one. One should not make a livelihood by forming a professional band to carry out congregational chanting. I love that because, a lot of people know that in Atlanta, we started the Murari Band back in 1975. Actually, it was called the Change of Heart Band. We were following Mangalananda's music. We had no music, so we did his music. We were called the Change of Heart Band. And we just played at Rath Yatra once or twice, a year. I remember once Sasut Maharaj, after we performed and he was here, he said, Balabhadra, you can be rock star once a year. That's it. Once a year, you can do that. So we formed the band the band, Morari Band, to promote the Morari Sevak farm in Tennessee. That was it. Our temple president was so brilliant. He wanted to do this kind of bridge preaching. So using music, we were all talented. And the album was specifically glorifying Krishna and the Morari Sevak farm. And we used to get letters of appreciation from all over the country. Amazing how much people appreciated it. Pure Krishna consciousness. But one other devotee got a better idea. Let's make money with this band. Let's become famous internationally. And the whole thing fell apart. It just fell completely apart because the real point of glorifying Krishna was lost. So you should not do anything for a professional reason. Take some aspect of Krishna consciousness and make it professional for your livelihood. Not good. So then, just to finish this up, he says, performing a professional band to carry out congregational chanting, nor should one perform devotional service when one is attached to mundane society, friendship, and love. Nor should one be dependent on so-called social etiquette. All of this mental speculation, none of these things can be compared to unalloyed devotional service. No one can compare unalloyed devotional service, Krishna consciousness, to mundane activities. There are many unauthorized parties pretending to belong to Sri Chaitanya's cult, and some are known as Aula, Baula, Kartabaja, Neda, Dharavesha, Sani, Sahajiya, Shakibeki, Smarta, Jata Goshani, Ativadi, Chuda, Dhari, and Goranga Nagari. So it's like a warning to us, be careful. Don't invent anything. Do service. Confirm the service with some senior, more experienced devotees. If you're fortunate to have contact with your spiritual master, ask him. I remember once when during my time as temple president in Atlanta, I was also running a gift shop. And I bought these deities, Radha Krishna deities. And they were just so, somehow, I don't know, they were just so beautiful. Now, of course, we already have our installed deities, Shri Radha Madan Mohan. But this little deities, they just were pulling me. It was like attracting me. I really was like attracted. Now, what did I do before I took them home? I went to Jayapataka Maharaj, my trusted confidant. I said, Maharaj, this is my mind. This is what I'm thinking. So what should I do? He said, if you're attracted to them, you can take them home. But your main deity is here, Shri Radha Madan Mohan. So I still have that little deity to this day. It was just so beautiful. But I didn't do anything. I'm temple president. I'm Prabhupada disciple. I could just take it and do it. No. I'm concerned whether or not I'm doing it correctly because I'm dealing with my eternal life here. I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. So I went to someone I trusted, and I do it all the time. I keep encouraging everyone to do the same. Make sure you have some devotees that you have confidence in, that you can reach out to, you can inquire from, to check yourself. Just check, like it says here, check the imbalance of values in life. First principle of ISKCON, first purpose, systematically propagate to check the imbalance. So you have to check yourself, check your consciousness, check your attitude, make sure it's correct. And that way, in the mood of dasya, servitude, we can make progress. But it also explains that all of the four are equally valuable because they all have the element of love for Krishna, service to Krishna. All the rasas have service. You think Radharani's not serving? Come on. She's cooking some different thing for Krishna all the time. She's doing all, and then the gopis are all assisting her service. They're on the highest level, but they're all serving. Come on. How important is service? So I'm saying it to you, pointing to you because I'm pointing to myself. As they say, you point the finger at a person, 3 other fingers are pointing back at you. So I'm reminding myself, Balabhaja, get up and get busy. Let me finish with these 2 little quick anecdotes. One is from our dear godbrother, Gaura Hari Prabhu. He passed away some time ago. He was at Gita Nagari in, I believe, Philadelphia. So Gaura Hari was giving class in Atlanta one time, and he gave a beautiful Bhagavatam class. And he said, now let's take all this ecstasy out to the street and preach. So we went out on Sankirtan. One thing about the old style of classes, I'm sure it happens now too, a lot of the classes were focused on service, Sankirtan, preaching, doing some service, all these elements about service. So another example real quick is Brahmananda Prabhu. I believe that movie is Happiness on 2nd Avenue. I think that's what it's called. So they're doing the kirtan. This is very beginning days. Might have been the first time devotees went out on the street, but in the movie, at the end of the little program in the temple, Brahmananda stands up, folds his hands, and now let's take this, maybe he said ecstasy or whatever, let's take it out to the street. And in the movie, you see devotees going out the door, and one guy has a big bass drum like that, and the other guy's, and Brahmananda's leading, and they go out to the street, take the holy name on the street, and go and bless people. So let me stop with that. Again, Dasya, 550 references. There's no way we can do it justice in this little short time, but please meditate upon the idea of servitude, service. Think, how can I improve my service to Krishna? But don't think in terms of speculating about that. The moment you start thinking, how can I improve, you might speculate. So then always check it. Whenever you think about increasing something in your life, you have 16 rounds to chant, 4 regulative principles, attend the classes, anything else you want to add, check it. Make sure you're making that right step. So I'll stop with that. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very, very inspiring and very encouraging. I mean, I must tell you that I couldn't stop myself and wrote at least 30, 40 points from your class this point. And with your permission, I can post
Can
it
you
on.
share those points with me, Prabhu? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can actually post on the chat.
Thank you.
Amazing, because usually when we read about or study these rasas, there is a natural tendency to think one is above other, or
Yeah.
But and Prabhu, I don't want to lose this opportunity before somebody asks the question.
Yeah.
Is it a good, correct understanding that Dasya rasa, the rasa of servitude, is the basis foundation for any rasa we can think of?
It's foundational to everything, because as I said, Radharani's serving. I mean, you can't get higher than Radharani. Is she not serving? And her attitude of service, Prabhupada says it, she doesn't ask Krishna for anything, nothing. So when you serve, it's not like I'm serving to get something or get a position in ISKCON. I'm going to be the best servant so I can get a position in ISKCON. Dangerous, very dangerous. If someone asks you to do something, maybe so-called, more responsibility, like say, Prabhu, can you, when I was asked years ago, I was selling candles out in Houston, Texas, which is crazy, candles in the hot summer. But then my temple president again, Balavanta Prabhu, he wanted to start a Bhakta program, because at that time, Dhanavir Prabhu was not sannyasi. He had just started the Bhakta program. So Balavanta called me in Houston, Texas, and said, Balavanta, I want you to come back to Atlanta and start a Bhakta program. What a blessing. Because first of all, I didn't like selling candles anyway. So can you come back and start a Bhakta program? And it was just beautiful. I followed Dhanavir Prabhu's manual to the T. And we just made devotees after devotees after devotees. So I was asked to do a different, in my opinion, a better service. So yes, so it runs through all of the rasas. Service. Show me any rasa where there's not service. Friendship, cowherd boys, right? Serving Krishna. What else? Yashoda, Nanda, Vasudeva, Devaki, come on, service. And then Radharani. Nothing but service. Fanning Krishna, doing all these different things for Krishna. How beautiful is service? So yes, Prabhu, it's foundational to everything. Okay. It's like when you come to the stage of Madhurya Ras, you're going to stop serving. You're going to serve more. I think Preacher had his hand up there.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yes, very wonderful class, so much in it. And I'm not surprised that Krishna Prabhu said he had 40 points that noticed so much, and a lot of references backing up what you were saying. Now, the translations is servitude, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love are the 4 transcendental mellows. So, Santaras, the neutrality was excluded.
Mm.
My question is, so does that mean, and I know you mentioned something about Santaras
Yes.
a little bit, not so much. Those who are in Santaras don't connect with the Lord, the way that, serve in the service attitude. I'm just paraphrasing, but I didn't quite hear what you said. So my question is that in Goloka Vrindavan especially, would I be correct in saying there is no Santaras then?
I can't quote you a statement 100%. I'd have to look at that. Maybe Vishnu Gadam might have some insight on that. They're all, the rasas are 5, but Srila
Yeah.
Prabhupada began that purport by saying basically that Shantaras is very grand idea. What did he say at one statement? Yeah. He says, Shantaras, or the neutral stage, is not mentioned in this verse because although in Shantaras one considers the absolute truth, the sublime great, one does not go beyond that conception. So is that conception there along with the other rasas? Obviously, you could say yes, because we also see that Krishna is great, but as you progress in the rasas, the relationships becomes even closer and closer. Cowboy boys, the parental, and then the gopis, so it becomes closer. I don't know, and I can say definitely
The
that
reason, okay. The reason I asked that, maybe other devotees, maybe we should definitely throw some light on it. The reason I asked that was my understanding was that if a person is in serving like a stone, a river, door, those were considered Santa relationship. And that, so then I was trying to understand this. If that's considered neutral, can a case be made that they are also serving, even while they are in that position? So then I knew all of this was running through my head when I said that. I just asked the question. Is there Santa Ras involved?
Well, when I was researching in the database, the point you just made, Dasharati was talking about bushes in Vrindavan, something like that, as Dasharas. I can't give it to you right now because it's one of the 550 references. But if you do that search in database, you'll find where it describes about Dasharas in that terminology, about various persons. But I was looking specifically to find devotees who were in the Dasharas. I couldn't remember exactly. I know it's there, but I couldn't remember exactly where it was, which devotees in this Ras, that Ras. It was just, I couldn't find it in time for the class. So thank you for bringing it up. Anasuya?
Okay.
As Prakshit was asking the question, I went to Bani Quotes, and that's a letter from Srila Prabhupada to Rupanuga, San Francisco, 12 March 1968. And the first line Srila Prabhupada says that Santa Ras means appreciation of the greatness of the Lord, but there is no active service of the Lord. That's what Srila Prabhupada said. He said in this letter, there's no active service of the Lord. It's just appreciation, but there's no active service.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helps.
No, it definitely. I mean, it's, active service means, okay, I'm appreciating the Lord. Oh, oh my God, he's so wonderful. Let me serve him. Then you move up. Yes, Prabhu.
Mother Anasuya, could you continue reading? That's a little bit more. That would answer Prakshit Prabhu's question also.
Yes, I can definitely read up more, Prabhu. Is my volume on? Yes, it is. Okay. And it says, the land, the grass, the trees, the plants, fruits, or the cows in the transcendental world are supposed to be situated in the Santaras. As spiritual beings, they're all conscious of Krishna, but they prefer to appreciate Krishna's greatness remaining as they are.
Yeah.
The next, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Prakshit Prabhu was questioning about that, and so that's the answer.
Yeah, so it's there in the spiritual world. That's the answer.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. So they are serving in appreciation. Their consciousness is an appreciation of the greatness of the Lord. Okay.
Anything else?
Did you want to continue? I don't know.
So, if anyone has any questions, any comments, they can raise their hand or they can unmute themselves or type on the chat. But such a wonderful nectar. I mean, I think we all became timeless this morning.
Yes, Prabhu, I have, I'm sorry for joining late, but every time I join your class after hopping off the next class, I feel like I've come in a very hot spot question, and somehow the Lord always arranges that. And I was really appreciating your point, Prabhu, really, really appreciating your point of how you said that, you were sharing that when anything you discuss, you meditate, with your seniors, your god brothers, you don't hastily address it. And that had helped me reflect on my part, because sometimes I come across situations where, I get input, feedback, anything. And initially a few years ago, I felt compelled, probably lack of a better word, pressured, to answer right away. And that got me into trouble.
That can
So,
happen.
yes, Prabhu, because you feel like you have to give an answer right away. But I've learned over the years, and I wanted to ask you if it's still healthy, is sometimes depending on the situation, is like I have to, really think about it, meditate from an aerial point of view, lack of a better word.
Yeah.
To see how the dots connect, talk to seniors and so on and so forth. And if in that situation, Prabhu, when we cannot give an answer right away, not feeling pressured or complied or whatever, how can we tell the other person, okay, I can't give an answer right now, and they want an answer right now, and I don't want to put myself in the hot boiling water because it's a lot of different angles. So how would you address such a situation, Prabhu?
I'm going to pass that one over to Geeta Mataji if you're able to jump on, Geeta, because we've had some discussions about that. Can you share from your perspective or experience about what she's asking, Geeta?
That happens so often. Please accept my full obeisances, August Prabhupada. You're the first person I run to whenever I have confusion. But over the years, I've learned to, in a very polite and gentle way, let them know that I don't know the answer right now, but I will definitely get back to you as soon as possible after discussing it with senior devotees. So that's the route I take.
And she's very sincere about that, because like I say, we talk quite a bit, and she'll ask, Mother Geeta will ask me a question. And if I don't know the answer, I'll say, let me research. And then we'll get back in touch and we'll have a discussion. We'll go back. And sometimes it takes days for us to, understand something that Prabhupada said or something we're trying to understand. So it's very sincere. It's very sincere because we're trying to understand Krishna consciousness. And as I said, this is real. This is for real. This is what we're investing this part of our life into. And Prabhupada says, what is it? Bhajan kara, sadhana kara, mukti janle hoy. It's a Bengali proverb, he calls it. Whatever bhajan you do, whatever sadhana you do will be tested at the time of death. Whatever bhajan you do, whatever sadhana you do will be tested at the time of death. So you have to make sure I'm doing the right thing. Yes, Geeta.
Yes. For instance, my last question to you, it took us 2 weeks to get the answer.
And we're still trying to figure it out, but
yes, but I started the response, to that newcomer with first apologizing for taking so long to get the answer. So, yeah, thank you.
No, and that's the sincerity of the heart. We really, when someone asks us the question, they're trying to do something in their life. So we should take the time to make sure what we say to them will enhance their practice of devotional service, and not just, I'm so smart. I'm telling you, 550 references is one word, dasya. What do I know? It's like, yeah, right. So we should be careful how we guide people. We're supposed to become gurus, not, sitting on an asan, vyasasan, big seat, baba, everyone's throwing flowers. No, we're supposed to be guru by telling people about Krishna as described in Bhagavad Gita. That's what Lord Chaitanya said. In this way, you become a guru. Tell everyone you know about Krishna as described in Bhagavad Gita, and especially under the help of the spiritual master and senior devotees. So I take it very seriously when devotees ask me questions. Even Vishnu Gadaprabhu, he will ask me, come on, he's my senior godbrother, but sometimes he'll ask me. And then we discuss back and forth, and it's like amazing, the realizations we get from that. I just love it. So please take advantage of that. Don't ever go too far out on a limb. They call it poetic license. I mean, I know what that means because I'm a songwriter, I'm a musician. I know what it means, poetic. You just start to take something and go, kind of speculate on it. But don't go too far out on the limb unless you know that the tree is solid in your understanding by association. Yes, Vishnu Gada Prabhu?
I interrupted Mother Anasuya as she was reading Srila Prabhupada's letter. But there's another part later that I thought I should have let her continue. But one important point he says again in that letter is that, but each and every rasa is complete in itself.
Wow.
A person in Shantaras or Sakyaras is as good as one in Madhura Ras. Because in the spiritual world, everything is absolute.
Wow.
But from the platform of spiritual vision, where there is transcendental discrimination, one can appreciate Madhurya Ras as complete as anything. So sometimes, we take it, or I may take it that, the Sringa or Madhurya Ras is best, and the others, their devotees are in a lower condition. No, all are incredibly exalted, much more exalted than me for sure. That's a really important point. There's, on one sense, we don't discriminate. They're all incredibly exalted beings, personalities, devotees.
And it's interesting, like, I know for me, that sometimes you think, or I think, I'm so exalted. It's like, I don't know, you start thinking somewhere on another platform, you think you're this, you think you're that, and not giving importance to, like, as you just gave such a beautiful completion to that letter from Srila Prabhupada, that conversation. He said, we don't give equal importance, or we don't realize where we are, and we start thinking that we're on these higher levels, Vatsalya, Madhurya, start want to function or operate on that level simply by conversation or even by talking. You don't even want to discuss on those levels. I mean, we're not anywhere close to the Madhurya Ras, period, nowhere. But we're very close to the Dasha, and we're probably right kind of in the Shanta Ras, we have the greatness of Krishna, the greatness of the Lord, and now we're trying to get into the mood of service. But who are we to go higher than, so-called higher than that, not realizing how wonderful Dasha is and how wonderful Santa is. It's all wonderful. We're so blessed to be in the realm of that level of devotional service. But that mundane competition attitude, I want to go to the highest. So that's the highest. I want to be recognized on the highest. No, just be careful. Where we are right now in the mood of service is so special, and appreciating the greatness of Krishna. Yes, Anasuya Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. As Vishwagata Prabhu was reading more into that letter, so it was actually a very powerful letter by Srila Prabhupada in 1968, actually.
Yeah.
Is it healthy, or is it correct, or should the mood be where, devotees are assessing themselves? I'm in this ras, I'm in that ras, I join in this ras, I should go to the next ras. Or should our mood always be till our last breath, dasya and nothing else?
If once you start saying which one you're in, past dasya, because dasya means servitude, right? Once you start thinking, because there's only one Yashoda Mai, there's only one, Nanda Maharaj, there's only one Radharani. You can't be them. So wherever you are, as Vishnu Gada pointed out as part of that letter, whichever one you're in, you're going to be happy. So the question always comes up, can you progress through the rasas? I mean, you can go look at that and research it and try to understand a little bit more. I can't answer it 100% right now, but can you progress through the rasas? As comparatively speaking, this one is that, this one is that. But as you pointed out, whichever one you're in, you'll be happy. Do you go to the next one? Vishnu, you want to add something to that one? It's a sensitive topic.
Well, in relation to Krishna, everybody has their rasa. But especially with us, as long as we're in this material world, as Parikit Prabhu pointed out, we're all the servant. We remain the servant of the spiritual master, always.
Mm.
That's we don't have a a parental relationship or any of that kind of stuff. It's always a servant,
Yeah.
which is an interesting point.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Dear Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. No, I mean, you already said it, and even Vishnu Gada Prabhu just explained it. Just like in the Damodar Lila chapter, Srila Prabhupada says, like you said, there is only one Yashoda, there is one Nand Baba. So whoever is in whatever mood, they're actually the servants of, advanced devotees or senior devotees in that mood. So ultimately, it all comes down to being the servant in whatever mood we are in.
Yeah. And then by Krishna's grace, Prabhupada quoted, what is the verse? You make Krishna's mercy, you make progress. You come closer as you surrender. So we just our business is just to surrender, okay? We just surrender. Surrender to what? Devotional service. Yeah. Learn from the spiritual master, learn from experienced devotees, and just keep surrendering to it. And then let Krishna do the rest. We keep thinking we're doing something just by virtue of my study, by my brain, I'm making advancement. That negates verse 327. What is it? Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasa ahankar vimuratma kartahamiti manita. Bewildered spirit, soul, under the influence of most material nature, thinks himself to be the doer. I'm doing this. Look at me. I have no intelligence without Krishna. We know the philosophy is right there in front of us, but we get confused. Why? Because we're not on the highest level yet. That's why we should be so careful. Because I can speculate within a second. And luckily, I know how to pull myself back a little bit, like, follow what you come back to reality. So we should be so careful. Razor's edge. On a razor's edge, you can cut yourself like so easily. But if you're very careful, maybe you'll make it across. So in this Krishna consciousness process, if we're careful and we move carefully, sincerely, Krishna will bring us to, what does it mean, Dadami Buddhi Yogam? What does that mean? That means Krishna gives us the understanding how to come to him. It's not by virtue of my big brain, my accumulated knowledge, the number of verses I've learned and memorized. Sure, that's all good. But you should know from memorizing and studying, that is all up to Krishna. The next level of advancement is not up to you have to make an effort, of course. We try to serve. But that process of coming closer to Krishna is by his arrangement. Dadami Buddhi Yogam. I give the understanding by which they can come to me. That makes sense to me.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for actually shedding some light, because whenever I hear such a sensitive yet beautiful topic like Dasyaras, I always think of many senior devotees that I have had the good fortune to take shelter of, and one of them is Mother Kalini, who left her body many years ago in Gitanagri. And everyone would say that that her life was such a sacrifice to Srila Prabhupada's mission in Gitanagri that she had the mood of a gopi, but she always said, I'm the servant of Srila Prabhupada. And I remember her very clearly. And I'm very fortunate to actually had her association, her guidance, and I've seen so many devotees. I just feel sometimes sad that when I hear from some devotees, what's the word? Assessing oneself to it's like textbook, like as an academic. No, I have to get to the next ras, then I got to go to the next ras. But everything I hear, from Srila Prabhupada and senior devotees like yourself and Vishwagata Prabhu and everyone else, the goal is just das anudas.
Yes.
And and I clearly remember Giriraj Swami when we had our first online, when we had Zoom online during the real hard part of COVID. And there was a question asked to him about that. And Maharaj said, we don't have to worry about what rasa we are in or what siddha we are in. It's just das anudas. But the question, Prabhu, is why does this question arise in today's, I sense it among some devotees, the need to assess, to categorize themselves? Why is that coming up? What's causing that?
That's an interesting question. Maybe, Vishnu Gadar, maybe you can help us on that. Maybe not only from the philosophical perspective, but from the psychological perspective. There must be some psychological aspect of that. I just can't put my finger on it right now. Do you have any insights on that, Vishnu Gadar?
Not really.
See how honest?
But one thing to know is that press is not just now. It's been there since early in the movement.
Yeah.
So there are people who, if you go to different Babajis, even some people who are, in the what apparently the Gaudiya Sampradaya devotees would go and say, well, I want to find out what my rasa is. I want to find out my if am I Gopi, a cowherd boy. That was going on way back, even during Srila Prabhupada's time.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And one quick comment, and then, dear Krishna, is that I just saw a little video clip of a devotee, follower of Srila Prabhupada, maybe from one of the different aspects of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. But he and another devotee went to South Indian Brahmanas to ask them the question about whether women should be allowed to be gurus in the Krishna consciousness movement. I just found it interesting. You're going to a South Indian Brahmin who's definitely going to tell you no, instead of researching from Srila Prabhupada or whatever. It somehow just didn't make sense to me. I was a little bit shocked to see that. It's like that's so that's how far devotees can go asking other sampradayas about business of Krishna consciousness. That's a little bit questionable in my opinion. Dear Krishna Prabhu?
Yeah, Prabhu, on that question of why devotees, talk about these rasas. I think, to be honest, sometimes there is a tendency to show ourselves as different or more important or more glorious in the devotion. I think that human aspect also comes into that. Somebody might really have some more interest, but I think in general, I have seen that devotees want to stand out.
Wow.
So that they can get some recognition also sometimes.
Wow, I didn't want to go down that path, but you just shook a hornet's nest. So
sorry, Prabhu, but that's
no. It's a super important point. I don't think we have enough time to go into it, but we have to be careful, how we're presenting Krishna consciousness. I discussed it with some devotees one time. I said, Prabhu, when you're giving the lecture, you got to understand people are respecting you because where you're sitting. Generally we have these little high seats. I don't care so much. As Vishnu Gadar Prabhu and myself were speaking recently, as we grew up in Krishna consciousness, everybody sat on a cushion. Okay, period, end of story. Sannyasi, GBC, it was a cushion, boom, on the floor. And I'm not saying you can't have vyasa. I don't call them vyasasana. Sometimes devotees call the seats where they sit a vyasasana. I personally don't. I could be wrong. But from what I remember, the GBC stated there's only one vyasasana in the temple room. That's Prabhupada's. And people say I'm representing Vyasadeva. I don't say that. I'm representing Prabhupada. I'm not even saying I'm representing all the acharyas. I represent Prabhupada. When I speak, I represent Prabhupada. That's for me. I'm not saying everyone has to think like that. So, we just have to be extremely, extremely careful and start to think ourselves more exalted by virtue of whatever standards you look at. I told you before one time, these new bhaktas and myself, we were all new bhaktas and bhaktins. And one of them said, I think I was born in the mode of goodness. And the other one said, you know what? I think I was too. And I thought, you guys just came from smoking dope. What are you talking about? You were just hippies a few days ago. Now all of a sudden you're this. So in Krishna consciousness, be careful. By virtue of being appointed, like honestly, you can identify with this, and Vishnu Gadar as well, because you're president now, we were all presidents. By virtue of being president, now you have more knowledge than everyone. No. I was asked to be president in 1986.
Well, I still come to you with questions.
The point is like, Jayapataka Maharaj asked me to be president in 1986, but I was just Balabhadra a day before, just Balabhadra, book distributor. Now I'm temple president. What did I do? I called every president I knew, help me out, because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Not assuming by virtue of being appointed, I am whatever. No. By virtue of your service, and devotees appreciate your service, and you appreciate, it's like amazing, this movement that Prabhupada has given us. So the movement of appreciation, of service. So nice. So we don't have to try to be on that higher level to get respect from devotees. if we, it was in something I read, I can't jump to it, but we want to attract Krishna by our service. As Srila Prabhupada quoting Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, don't try to see Krishna act in such a way that Krishna sees you through your service. So yes, dear Krishna, go ahead, Boo. I know time has already run past.
No, Prabhu, just with your permission and Ansuya Mataji's permission, it's already 9:20.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah.
we can go
Please.
on and on and on.
Forever.
So,
In other words, dear Krishna says, he's hungry. Let's go have breakfast. That's what I'm thinking.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing the
Thank
truth
you,
out,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Super.
Prabhu, for this wonderful nectar.
Thank you.
If anyone has any question, you can send to Ansuya Mataji, and that can go to Prabhu again, and maybe we can get answers through that. And I would highly recommend going back and listening to this recording again. It's all on
Mhm.
YouTube live. Thank you, all the devotees. Thank you, Prabhu, for your
Thank you.
association, your blessing this morning. And we look forward to see all the devotees again tomorrow morning for the nectar of Bhagavatam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Srila
Krishna.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Vancha Kalpatarubhya Kripa
Kripa
Sindhu
Sindhu Patitana
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Haribo, Haribo.
Hare Krishna. Go ahead, Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.